If there's one thing we stand behind with suspension and coilovers, we bring it up all the time, it's Fortune Auto. This is a coilover company that we've bragged about, that we've thrown in race cars, drift cars, show cars, and everything in between. And you guys might be wondering, why? Why do we talk about it so much? After all, it's a more expensive option. This is not a cheap set of coilovers. This is actually what I would consider almost a tier 1 level cost of coilovers. This is kind of trudging up to KW pricing. So why? Why do we talk about Fortunado so much? Well, I do want to explain it to you because in this episode of the MartiniWorks Unbox, we're taking a look at some of the very parts that we're going to be installing on our brand new Dream Build series, our 1999 Nissan Skyline GTT. We want to show the world that with the right parts and with the right ideas, you can maximize a car that isn't the top of the line car in a threshold, because nobody wants to pay $150,000 for a Nissan. Money's not real and it doesn't make sense. Let's get into showing you what you can do when you really start to work with Fortunado on a custom set of coilovers. Now, one of the things you just heard me say, customized set of coilovers. If you listen to the MartiniWorks podcast, which hopefully you do because we post every Friday, it's on YouTube, it's on all the social channels, it's on Apple Music, it's on everything in between, you'll notice that we always talk about Fortunado in some way, shape, or form. And one of the things that I like to talk about when we do the plug is their commitment to service and just how knowledgeable they are when it comes to developing a set of coilovers for you. And we wanted to have that same exact experience. With the GTT, we're building it for a couple different things. We're building it to drift it, we want to be able to track it, and we do want it to still be able to get around on a normal street, to drive it around, take it to a car show, and have some fun with it. And to do that requires having something that's not just an out-of-the-box experience. We needed something that's going to have some custom spring rates. We needed to take into consideration if we wanted the Swift springs, and we wanted to make sure we could get the most out of the coilovers when we're at Road America, because it is one of the most demanding tracks out there. It took us right about, I would say, 20 emails or so over the course of 2.5 days to get to the conclusion that we did with these coilovers. And I can honestly say that if you do get your coilovers from us at MartiniWorks.com, and we're gonna work directly with Fortunado as well, if you do need a set of custom coilovers. The box though, kind of cool, very boring. This is what we're looking to unbox. Do I have a knife still? Are you ready? Because this is the top half. This is what we're gonna be installing in the GTT. I wanna walk through a couple things right here and right here because this is gonna look a little bit different than what you're used to. Typically it would come in one piece, but as R34s start to get leaked into the United States, you are gonna realize that your suspension setup and your shock setup is a little different. It requires a couple different pieces depending on what trim model you get. Now we have a GTT, which means we have to use a fork assembly to actually get this mounted into the car. Now for this one specifically, our front suspension, we're using a 180mm shock body. It's got a 92 millimeters of shock stroke. For our front springs, we've got 14 kg on 5-inch Swift springs, and we have the Fortunado assist spring. That is this little spring that you see right here. If you guys have ever wondered if it's worth upgrading to Swift springs, the answer is going to be yes for sure if you plan on doing more than just street driving. If you plan to get around a track, you want to have something that's just going to feel good all the way around, I can confidently say that Swift springs are definitely worth it. Why this is different is because Swift has a proprietary technology to develop their springs. You're going to actually notice that if you were to put this spring and this spring rate next to one that would come standard on most coilovers, you're going to notice that the standard coilover spring for this would have more coils, and it's also going to weigh more. Swift springs are lighter, it doesn't take as much actual metal to get to the spring rate required, and they look pretty cool. The helper spring here, this is something as well that we're gonna talk about here in just a little bit, but it is a nice addition to the kit. Now, another one of the things that makes it really special with this Fortunado kit, and something that you can do as well, is you can get Heim joints. Now, Heim joints are essentially built to eliminate play from the rubber bushings under G-force load, and they also allow that top hat / lower mount to pivot and articulate. The thing that we wanted for that is, again, for track usage, which is fantastic. One of the cons, though, if you are thinking about if it's worth it for you, is that this can generally be a little bit of a noisier coilover, because you don't have a rubber absorption of any sort of vibration. It's essentially a Heim joint, so it's gonna be a little bit louder. Now, you are gonna see this more common on 510s, you're gonna see this more common on race cars. You do not need to have it on the street, but the choices is that you can. We developed this straight off of a 510 series coilover that, without going into too many conversations, would look like a standard coilover, but we needed to figure out what spring rate we wanted, so we went with the 14Ks after talking to the Fortunado team about exactly what we were going to do. We had to walk through an entire form, just like you would, just like we would send to you, to say, what are we planning to do with it? The helper spring, also a conversation. Do we want that in a Swift spring upgrade? Yes, we did. So we did that, and we did Swift springs on the top, and we did the Heim joint above here because we wanted that kind of almost strength on the track. We were willing to take a little bit of a sacrifice on the street for it. Now, this is gonna look a little bit more of what I would say a common coilover is going to look like. One of the things that you may not notice is that these can actually come in aluminum or steel bodies, depending on what you prefer. We decided to go with a lighter body, so we went with aluminum to save a little bit of weight. And now you have this gorgeous coilover. If you folks remember from the podcast, or maybe from one of the videos, you'll know that we actually went down there to see how they assemble every single coilover. Every Fortunado coilover is hand-built. It's located in Virginia. The folks shim everything. They test every single coilover that leaves their doors to make sure that it's dialed in to perfection, which is proof, because if you come over here, you're gonna see the report out, essentially the report card of the coilover's performance, which is exactly what you have here. This is what gets printed off after they've tested it, after it makes all clearances, so that you can reference at any sort of point how your coilovers are going to perform based on what's getting pushed through them, either through rebound or compression. You can adjust your dampers. We have all of that at the top here. And the greatest thing about this is that this was a custom made to order kit. They didn't have this one in stock. We got everything set up. Took about 2-3 days to really dial in what we wanted for spring rates in the front, spring rates in the rear. We went with a 10K in the back, 14K in the front. We made a little bit of a joke that it's because the hood on the R34 weighs about 1 billion pounds, but in all honesty, the front is really heavy. So having a little bit of a different spring rate up front is gonna help us quite a bit. It's also gonna help with turn in, and it's gonna make the entire car feel a little bit better. This took about 4 weeks to get to us, 3.5 weeks to get to us. So if you're in a rush, I think it's really important to remember that custom built, made to order coilovers are not that fast yet. They probably will be in the future. If you're looking for something that's gonna be in stock, ready to go for that like weekend car show, this probably isn't gonna be it. You're probably gonna wanna go down to a Fortunado 500 series with your standard shocks, your standard spring rates, your standard everything, because that's really what they keep in stock. That's what they have ready to rock and roll. But the point here is to show you what is capable. As you start to figure out how much money you wanna spend on things, I'm gonna be really honest with you, it gets tough. The car industry, building car parts, modifying cars, it's gotten really expensive. And so you don't wanna spend money if you don't have to. The problem is everything kind of looks and feels the same, and so you really get sold on marketing. At the end of the day, it's what markets the best is pretty much what people buy. Even though from a wheel perspective, 10 factories make all 40 wheels that we see on our wheel wall, they're price difference by $2,000 a wheel sometimes. And so when it comes to coilovers, you might feel the same way. One of the key things I can say about Fortunado coilovers and why we like them so much is, number one, the quality is second to none. There's somebody touching and verifying and making sure and auditing that everything that's on this product right here is working, it's dialed into where it needs to, and it's exactly what we needed for it. The second biggest thing, and the reason that I like working with Fortunado, is because even though they are a little bit more expensive, you're getting the service out of it, and you're getting the knowledge and the expertise that you're paying for there. Our conversation over with Fortunado and Devin over there over the course of those 2 days really dialed in what we wanted this coilover kit to do, and not every company is gonna be able to do that. They might be able to help you up to the sale, but if you call them after the fact, a lot of times they're gonna ghost you. Fortunado does a really good job of supporting their customers either pre or post, and we love that. It's why we do MartiniWorks. It's why MartiniWorks was even founded, was because we wanna care about you guys and gals just as much after you pick up wheels and tires or suspension from us than you do before. Otherwise, what's the point of doing this whole thing? And the third thing I'll say, the warranty, all the stuff that comes along with the Fortunado coilovers is always bang on. I like some of the small details here. If you guys are looking to understand some of this, you're gonna see that these are actually labeled with what size hex key you need to lock this on, as well as the 4mm down here for, I believe, this right here, So as you thread this on, you're good to go. You'll notice that as you go underneath the R34 suspension, that you're gonna notice that there's not a whole lot of space. And when you start adding a fork to it that's this big, you gotta start getting creative with how you're gonna handle some of what's left. So with that being said, we really enjoy this. We're actually gonna be putting these on at US Air to test it out to get a before and after performance. If you wanna check out that video, you can actually head over to the main channel at MartiniWorks.com. This coilover kit right here, without the Swift spring upgrade, without the helper spring upgrade, and without the Heim joint upgrade, is probably gonna be around $2,100. $2,199 is I think where it comes in at. If you want the Swift springs, the tops, and the helper springs, it's gonna be about another $500 or so. So that'd be $2,600. And if you want these Heim joints at the top, it's probably gonna be another couple $100. So you're coming up on $3 grand almost if you wanted this set of coilovers. Again, it's expensive. I know it's expensive, but when it comes down to suspension and when it comes down to tires, specifically for us here at MartiniWorks.com, it's very, very important that if you're looking to get out there and you're looking to get on the track and you're looking to really dial in how a car feels, the one place I would recommend you don't cut corners on are your coilovers. So with that being said, you can pick up Fortunado 500s, which are only $1,700, or the 510s for $2,100 over at MartiniWorks.com. If you want something custom and dialed in for your race car, we can help with that too. We work with the Fortunado team every single day. This is an obvious plug. We want you to pick up these coilovers from us, but at the same time, we want to show you that we're using some of the same team members over at Fortunado that you would be if you're picking up a set of coilovers, because they have decades of racing experience and they know exactly what needs to go on the front and rears of a GTT R34 to really pull all of the suspension performance out of the car that we can possibly get. If you have questions on Swift springs, Fortunado, or coilovers in general, let us know below. We're so happy you stopped by. I'm Alex, Alex.Martini. We'll see you on the next one. Adios.